Call to Kitty Hawk Town Council order, February the 1st, 2016, at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It's now 6 p.m. Thank all of you that are in attendance. We appreciate you coming out here tonight. For those that might tune in later, thank you for looking for the right channel and watching us later. So if you'll join us with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item is approval of the agenda, and there is an item to remove. Item 8C, which had to do with shared parking at Wendy's, or a proposed Wendy's site. Those lots have all been recombined, and legal has advised that we don't need to deal with that. That problem has been taken away from us. So I don't have any other things to remove. Does anyone else have anything to remove? Do you hear a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Motion to approve is amended, Mr. Mayor.
Do you hear a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Now we have recognitions. We have Police Officer 2, William Deaton, 5 years of service. Can you believe you've been here that long?
No, it's hard to believe. It seems like yesterday I was introducing him to council, and I was just talking to Lynn about that, how time flies, and it's just crazy how it is. But Billy got into law enforcement a little bit later, and some younger officers wanted to follow his dad's footsteps. His father's a retired police officer and chief of police, and he resides in Swansboro. Now, so Billy's calling us law enforcement, and what a fantastic 5 years it's been. He's one of our field training officers that trains our new recruits. He's become a certified instructor. He can teach at the Basic Law Enforcement Training Academy, and he's also my designated community police officer. If I have an issue in an area, he'll go and speak with the individuals, such as last council meeting, we had individuals concerned about parking. I met with him, and then Officer Deakins made contact with him, and we've attended to his needs. So he's my go-to guy for the community. What a great asset. Couldn't ask for anybody better. That's his wife, Chris, and Will here. He's a wonderful son, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next we have public comment. Lynn?
Clyde Hargrave.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I was here last month and talked with you about the 5201 property, North Down Highway, the conditional use permit. I did ask to meet with the mayor and Rob Testerman and the engineer to discuss some ideas that I had that I thought might help get this problem solved. Subsequently, I did meet with Rob Testerman, and I met with Michael Strader with Bible Engineering, and we talked about some things. I want to reiterate what I had to say that night and touch on a couple of other things, but I understand that the engineer has revised the drawing to some degree that shows some grading changes, that tweaks that will help to some degree, I think. I'm not certain it'll help a lot or totally resolve the problem, but I do think it will help to some degree. I do also understand that DOT says that the encroachment agreement that they looked at, the encroachment application and the agreement that they issued calls for bollards across Bird Street. I didn't see that on the previous drawings, and it may be there and I've overlooked it, but I've not seen that. But that's what we're being told. And that if Bird Street is opened up entirely, then they would have to do a traffic study, which we would certainly welcome. We don't want to see Bird Street opened up. As I said that night, and I reiterate again today. We think it causes problems with traffic on Bird Street. On changeover day, it'll cause additional traffic on Ride Lane that the city doesn't maintain. People cutting down behind the furniture store to get over on the new Bird Street up to 158 trying to beat traffic on turnover. So we think that's a major issue. Imagine, if you will, along the property line behind the houses fronting Lindbergh Avenue, a wall approximately 4 foot tall, and above that, another 2 feet of additional fill that would stand above that wall, and a parking lot up there at that elevation. So that's what's going to be put across the back of these properties. Again, we think that's a damming effect. We do not see how that does not have an adverse effect on our properties as far as flooding and that sort of thing. Again, I'd like to point out, we want to see the property develop. We welcome the medical center. We just want it to be done in such a way that it doesn't impact us. Again, think about that wall across the back of the property and the problems it's going to invite the water, where that water's going to go, that sort of thing. We're concerned about the lighting. Again, I understand that'll be handled by permit with the planning department before we go to this issue. The other thing, we still think the footprint of the building could be changed to some degree to be able to get the building sited on the property in such a way that it can be moved to the back of the property. I understand from Michael Schrader, he's looked at that many ways and went back, took some more shots at it and decided that this was the best approach. That may or may not be the case, I don't know. One other thing I'd like to mention is that if you go back and look at the flood protection ordinances, I think this directly disregards your own town ordinances regarding floodplain protection. That's all I've got. I'd be glad to make other comments if the board opens this back up for discussion.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else signed up?
No one else.
Does anyone else wish to speak at this public hearing part, or public comment part? Let the record show no one came forward. All right, next we have a consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And that puts us right on off, brings us into the public hearing. We didn't have anything removed from the consent agenda. All right, public hearings. The first is a text amendment, application for a text amendment that allow vehicle rentals in BC2 district under certain conditions. Do I hear a motion to go into public hearing?
Motion to go into public hearing?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're in public hearing. Rob? Does this require swearing?
No.
Not this one? All right. You keep us straight.
All right, as mentioned, the text amendment application would be to allow vehicle rentals in the BC2 zoning district, subject to certain conditions that you can see laid out in your staff report provided to you. The language is basically the same as the language that was recently approved for the BC1 district, with the exception that the condition stating that it be as a standalone use on the property has been removed and replaced with that the vehicle rental business shall not be an ancillary use. So that would mean that it could be put in a multi-tenant business or multi-tenant building, but the rental business could be the sole use of the business itself. It couldn't be like what came up a few years ago with the auto repair service that wanted to do vehicle rental as an accessory use to that main business. Having or adding the subsection G, as I mentioned, would prevent it from being an ancillary use, and because this would be as a conditional use permit, and each one would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, I don't think there'd be any adverse consequences of allowing it in a multi-tenant building. Each application that came through, staff would be able to look at that individual application to see, how the traffic flow in that particular location would work out. In some cases, some multi-tenant cases, it may not work, and that would be grounds for council to disapprove. And others, in my opinion, the one that we'll be talking about tonight, is in a situation where it's a little more friendly to be in a multi-tenant business. See, I've provided in the staff report a little bit of history of vehicle rentals coming to town council. You can see there's been 3 instances where it's come and been denied versus the one that came most recently and was approved last year. I think there are some main differences to the ones that were approved compared to the one that's in front of you tonight. The ones that were denied previously mostly were proposed as accessory or ancillary uses. This one would be the only use of the business. Some of the concerns included not having a limit on the number of rental vehicles in the fleet. This one, like the one that was approved in June or July for BC1, has a maximum of 15 vehicles. Again, one of the concerns that came up was the traffic flow in multi-tenant buildings. We're going to feel that with the staff review and planning board review before it comes to council, we'd be able to identify whether or not it would work in a multi-tenant use. And additionally, getting all the staff material ready for this, and I did this after the staff report was put together. I went around and looked in the BC2 district, which you can see up here is colored in red. If this were approved the way it is, there would be, I believe I counted 4 or 5 multi-tenant businesses that it could potentially affect if somebody wanted to move in with a rental business. And the one condition that's on there, condition A, it says that no more than 3 rental vehicles to be parked in front of the building. The remainder of the fleet should be parked in the rear or interior of the building. That would lessen the number of multi-tenant buildings that it would have an effect on. And if that were amended to remove the part about it being parked in the rear and just have it being stored in the interior of the building, that would reduce the number of buildings it would affect to 2 buildings. It would be the applicant for the text amendment conditional use, and then there's another building that is kind of behind East Coast Game Rooms. It's a multi-tenant building with garage doors capable of storing vehicles inside. So I think that could be an option if that's one of the concerns that, with multi-tenant buildings, if we reduce it to only storing vehicles inside, then we've got 2 properties that it could potentially affect. I guess with that, I will turn it over to the council if there's any questions.
Anybody have a question of Rob? Okay. Stand by, we may need you back. Has anybody signed up for this?
Yes.
No? Does anybody wish to speak to this? No one? Once we go out of the public hearing, it's up to council at that point to decide it. No further comment? All right, let the record show. Council, you have anything further, Rob?
Rob, is this just a day rental, or is this where you can rent it for a week, or how?
They did not specify in the application. I would assume it would be for day rental, but like I said, they didn't specify with that. I did mention in the staff report that I guess where that question might be going, is people coming and leaving their cars in the
Yeah,
parking lot.
uh-huh.
You know, there could be a condition put on, added into it that, you know, customers' cars could not be left there, but I think enforcement would be difficult for that one. Again, being that the conditional use permit, if it were to be approved as a text amendment, each application that would come in, we would look at the parking situation in that development. The particular one that we'll be talking about after this one, they've got a total of, I think, 16 spaces that are directly in front of their unit, or their two units. So for this one, it would probably be, you know, a little more reasonable, whereas if it was one of the units in the middle of the building, with only a few parking spaces out front, might not be as appropriate. Currently, all the times I've been by there, since they've come in for the application, the parking along the south side is, I've never seen any vehicles there, except for one day I caught the applicant there when I was posting the signs. So it doesn't seem like that southern end of the building gets used to, or gets parked in too often.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, if you have no further questions, we're getting ready to go back into regular hearing. You hear a motion to go back into regular hearing?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Council, what do you want to do with this? It's time for our discussion and decision now.
I'll start it off. You know, we've had basically the same use come in front of us twice? Three times, okay?
4 if you're on the planning board. Yeah, I think one time it was brought to the planning board, and after it was denied, it was never brought to council. So if you weren't on the planning board at that time, but
Right.
this is 4 for
Yeah.
Craig and Lynn.
I mean, I can't, with a clear conscience, give a favorable vote to this after denying the other individuals who have come before us. Now, I will say that this morning I went by there, and first of all, yesterday morning at 8 o'clock, I rode by there, and there were 8 cars on the northern section of the parking lot, and they came from, I guess, the automotive place. They must have been cars that he was working on or had worked on or whatever. Today, at 8 o'clock, there was 11. At 2:30 in the afternoon, there was 13. And so I think that parking lot is really jammed up. I don't know if, I can't see how those 2 end spaces, which where this guy's going to go, is going to have any place to park any cars out there, especially if he has up to 15. He can't put 15 inside. And you darn sure aren't going to be able to put, say you have 3 out front and 15 and 12 inside. I don't see how that can work. But back to my thing that I said originally before, I can't with a clear conscience vote positive on something we've turned another individual down. And that's just me.
Okay?
I agree. We've been down this road many times before. The gentleman is in the audience tonight that was denied a number of times. Number of vehicles, the parking, the neighboring businesses, the neighborhood, I am not in favor of this.
Okay. Lynn?
The same.
Yeah, I'm on the same. Like I said, we've been down this road quite a few times, and out of fairness to the past applicants and for the reasons that that have been discussed by the council previously, I feel the same way.
All right. The way I'm hearing it is you've got an enforcement problem because it's a multi-tenant business. And BC2, as you have wisely looked and seen, this could open it up for several multi-tenant businesses, which would give us a real enforcement problem, if not just a plausible problem. All right, that's one thing. Customer cars are another issue. Again, how do you know who's what belongs to where, and crowding out the parking lot? And I've been there many times also and seen the lot full. So it's a multi-tenant issue that goes against it. We've turned it down before in similar motions in BC2, and it impacts all of BC2. So do I hear a motion to deny this?
I move to deny the proposed text amendment adding subsection 42, 251, parentheses C, is 34, allowing vehicle rentals at a conditional permitted use in the Beach Commercial BC2 zoning district, subject in certain conditions. County Council finds that the proposed text amendment is consistent with the adopted Cameron Land Use Plan and finds these amendments to be in the public interest of creating greater opportunities for local businesses.
Are we okay with that?
Yes.
All right, do I hear a second? All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the issue is denied. Next, we have a public hearing on conditional use permit to allow a vehicle rental business at 500 Sand Dune Drive. Is that still moot?
I think you just need to vote to deny it because it's not permitted in that district.
All right, do I hear a motion to, we don't need to hold a hearing then?
Don't need to hold it here.
All right,
Mr. Mayor, I move to deny approval of the proposed conditional use permit to allow the establishment of a vehicle rental business at 500 Sand Dune Drive, subject to conditions included in staff report. Town Council finds that proposed use is consistent with the town's adopted Cameron Land Use Plans and find this to be in the public interest.
Second?
Lynn seconded. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll wipe that one out. And 8C went away, so now we have a conditional use permit application dealing with the sewage system for a proposed Wendy's. We'll get into that site plan later. So, do I hear a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Rob?
All right, this one, the applicant's requesting approval of a conditional use permit for the existing privately owned Shoreside Center sewage treatment collection, treatment plant, and drain field system. Although required by ordinance 42-513A, conditional use permit was never issued for this existing system. I believe the system was built prior to that ordinance, that section of the ordinance being in place. It was established in the early 1990s from what I've found. The application requests the formal approval of the existing system that currently serves McDonald's, Walmart, Harris Teeter, as well as to add service to the proposed Wendy's parcel. You can see in the staff report, there's a variety of requirements that were needed to be met in order for the sewage treatment plant to be approved in the way it is. And additionally, for the Wendy's site to be added to it, it needed to be a part of the shopping center development. Through the recombination plat that you discussed earlier with the parking, it is now part of that development, that shopping center, and can be approved to be added into the service for that facility. The planning board in December unanimously recommended approval for the conditional use permit. If you got any questions about the specific requirements that were needed to be met, I can speak to that, or if the applicant needs to speak, I think they're here as well.
All right, anybody have a question of Rob at this point?
Yes, sir.
All right, we haven't turned him loose, so you can come back to it. Is anybody signed up for this?
No.
All right, does anyone wish to speak at this public hearing? This is about a sewage connection. Yes, sir. Please come up. We're well represented tonight. We have 3 lawyers in the house, so.
As indicated, my name is Kraus Gray. I'm an attorney, and I've been retained to try and assist with getting the necessary approvals for the Wendy's project. Technically, I represent the owner of the land on which this is hopefully going to be approved and built. Just so that we've got a couple things to clarify, one of the items that I wanted to present to this board was an affidavit that I've had executed to basically articulate that the ownership interest that we have is one and the same player. Two different names, but 1600 Peachtree LLC, the owner of the Wendy's site, is in fact the sole member of Shoreside Peachtree LLC and controls that entity. And I thought it would be best for this board to have an affidavit so certifying. So may I present this to the clerk for submittal into the record?
Yes, please.
The other issue concerning the sewage, other than making sure that we presented information about the ownership, is to clarify one of the issues that's in your ordinance. Your ordinance talks about a bond being required, and there's an issue as, from my perspective, you have to understand, I'm an attorney, I read little keywords and commas and periods and go, okay, what does this mean? Your bond requirement came into place after this particular sewage treatment facility was approved. So the issue is whether, in fact, we've got to put a bond up now for repair of this particular facility. This facility is owned by the people who use it. So in other words, Shoreside, Peachtree Shoreside LLC owns it and operates it, but the people who actually are paying for it are the ones that are the people who are using it, i.e. Harris Teeter, Walmart, Wendy's. And I submit to you that those people are not going to let this sewage treatment plant go down, any of them, because if it goes down, they can't operate, and they can't make money. So I respectfully submit that the bond requirement is not something that's necessary for this particular plant. It's been there in excess of 20 years. As far as I can ascertain, there's absolutely no evidence that this plant has ever had any problems and nor any complaints. So I respectfully submit to you that requiring a bond at this particular point in time would be useless and putting money up for no reason. I will tell this board that Barrier Island had an agreement with the town where Barrier Island put money aside every time they sold it every week. I know because I was the escrow agent. I'm still holding $25,000 or something to make sure that that plant got maintained. This particular circumstances, I just don't think meets that requirement. And I would respectfully submit that we would request that you adopt this or approve this conditional permit without requirement of a new bond under these circumstances.
Is this,
Any questions you have?
yeah, well, the first and main question I have, these aerobic sewage plants now should be coming under some requirements of the state. In other words, the state should be having a part to play in making sure they're maintained and kept up. Is that true on this plant or not?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that, but I have somebody who does know the answer to that. May I ask the engineer for the plant to respond to your inquiry?
He's got to swear first, hopefully not at us, but
You can swear.
anyway.
One second, please. Mr. Calfee, a short answer, please.
Directly to the point.
I apologize.
For the record, my name is Ralph Calfee. All of these kinds of plants, in fact, all systems that use subsurface disposal in Dare County are regulated by the Dare County Health Department under North Carolina regulations. This is not like the days of old when somebody would build a plant and then nobody ever knew what happened to it. It's not like that at all. There are semi-annual, annual inspections, reporting, a whole kit and caboodle. So there is absolutely assurance that the plant will be monitored by a regulatory agency.
That's what I wanted on the record. Thank you.
All right. I got a question. Does that $25,000 in escrow, does that follow this plant, or does it go back to the Barrier Island folks?
Your ordinance basically provided that after a 15-year period, the monies would be returned to whoever put the monies up. It sat there for 15 years. That 15 years has not expired, so it is still sitting in an escrow account. In all candor, I am no longer attorney for the particular parties who are developing that, and I will be turning that over to their new escrow agent as soon as they figure out who's going to be that new escrow agent. But I won't comment on that.
Rob, the issue of bonding, I don't remember reading that in our write-up.
I thought there was a section in there, but the way it's written is basically for new construction, there's a 15-year bond on it.
But we were never being asked in this application
Right.
to put a bond on it, right?
On
No,
the,
you are not.
Okay,
number
I just
five.
wanted to make sure, because you brought it up, and I don't remember
yeah, on
reading
number
that.
5 on page 2, there's a little brief about it, but there was no recommendation to.
Okay, all right. So if we accept what you've given us and we move the motion that was provided, we'll be where we should be. All right, good. Counsel, anybody else got a question of these gentlemen? No?
Sir, sir.
Anyone else want to speak here at this part of the hearing? Once we go out of it, we won't ask you any more questions or ask for any. All right, do I hear a motion to go back into regular session?
I move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, counsel, what do you want to do?
I'll make a motion. You want me to?
Please?
I move to grant approval of the proposed conditional use permit to allow formal approval of the existing wastewater treatment plant at 5400 North Croatown Highway, as well as the addition of the proposed Wendy's to the system. Town council finds that the proposed conditional use permit is consistent with the town's adopted Campbell land use plan and finds that the application to be in the public interest.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, go pump some sewage, folks. All right, next thing we've got is planning, and it's unfinished business, and it has to do with the application for a conditional use permit to allow construction of a medical office at 5201 North Croatown Highway. Now, I'm going to read something for the record that changes a little bit what we normally do here, so please pay attention. The planner has advised that as a result of the hearing held in January 2016, the project engineer has looked closely at those things that might be revised to accommodate adjacent owner concerns. In order for council to consider any revision, it will be necessary to reopen the hearing and receive sworn testimony from the planner and the engineer. Town Attorney Steve Michaels has recused himself from providing counsel with legal advice since he also represents the applicant in various other matters. In his stead, Attorney Ben Gallup is retained to provide legal advice for this issue. Legal counsel has reviewed the proposed revisions to be presented and advised that none of it will require additional review by the planning board. Additionally, council can allow or not allow public comment in addition to the planner and engineer. So before I motion to return this issue to open hearing, I ask each council member to advise if you want to allow public comment in addition to the planner and engineer, or only consider just any new information plus what was learned at the original hearing. Craig?
We heard a lot of good comments, a lot of good discussion at the last meeting. The room was packed. I see a lot of familiar faces and some new ones that were not here the last meeting. Appreciate you very much coming. For me, I am satisfied from what I heard from the public last time, so I'm okay with what we've got already.
No comment. All
Yeah,
right.
I agree with him, too.
All right.
No
Yeah.
additional comment needed.
No.
No additional comment. All right. I motion to reopen the public hearing for a CUP application to construct a medical office at 5201 North Croatown Highway. It does not include additional public comment. Okay? Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Rob?
remember this application was tabled from the previous town council meeting. After hearing numerous concerned neighboring residents, and meeting personally with staff and a couple of residents, the engineer re-looked at some of the issues in an effort to ease some of those concerns. The engineer relayed to me that they attempted a variety of different site layouts. As one of the concerns is they would prefer to see the building placement closer to the east side of the property. Due to site constraints dealing with the existing non-tidal wetlands, the parking requirements, the septic system location, it sounded like it was not possible for them to relocate the building. Another neighbor that I spoke with had raised the question of, had a two-story building been looked at to lessen the footprint, put less impervious surface on the property. I spoke with the engineer about that, and they said they had looked at that, but it was counted out pretty early on in the planning phases of it. It just wouldn't work for the backyard for a variety of different reasons. One of the main concerns that came up at the last meeting was flooding that could be caused by the fill on the property and the proposed retaining wall. Currently, a number of the residential lots to the east of the subject property drain to the applicant's property, creating that non-tidal wetland that is proposed to be filled as part of the project. The concern is that with the subject property no longer accepting as much runoff from the adjacent properties, that water won't have anywhere to go. The engineers reworked the stormwater management in an attempt to take on more of the neighbor's runoff than what was originally proposed. The additional proposed grading would be intended to prevent the pooling of the water behind the retaining wall. And you can see in this corner, and this picture shows a blown up version, they've done some additional grading in this area. They've dropped the retention area about a foot lower than was originally proposed. And they've sloped this side, the east side of the property, into that retaining area as well. This is the proposed retaining wall, so you can see it would be an effort to get it to flow down to that retention area. I should point out, as Mr. Hargrave mentioned earlier, when DOT reviewed and issued the encroachment permit, it was under the assumption from the planning board recommendation of having Bird Street closed off and not being a through drive. Should council approve it without the blocking of Bird Street, they'll need to do a full traffic impact analysis. That's not to say it wouldn't get approved, but there'd be some more reviews that would go into that decision. Also to keep in mind, if the proposal is approved with Bird Street blocked off, as planning board recommended, that the fire hydrant on Lindbergh would no longer count towards their property, and they're already proposing to add one new fire hydrant to meet fire requirements, and if that Bird Street is not connected, they'll then have to add 2 new fire hydrants to meet the fire standards. I believe the engineer is here if you have any questions for him on what they reworked.
Well, before we get to him, this bollards across Bird Street, what was that all about? The public comment, none of us had seen that or heard about that.
That came up, it wasn't on the original site plan, and it came up during the planning board review to prevent so much traffic going through there, having the Bird Street blocked off. And a revised plan was sent to DOT for that review. And you can see, it's kind of small to make out on here. There's 2 proposed type 3 breakaway barricades mounted in the pavement that are fully collapsible reflective sheeting. In speaking with the engineer and the fire chief on that, the concern is if a fire truck needed to get back in this area, they're not collapsible in the sense that you can just drive over them. You still have to stop and remove a screw and fold them down, delaying any kind of response time back there. So that's why that would not be able to be counted for the fire hydrant if those were included in the plan.
Well, okay, I don't like that anyway, but I've been up to those meetings where the discussion's been 158.12 and all the congestion that accumulates there in the summertime in particular during peak days. If we don't have a full ride through this Bird Street so that people can get to it from other ways, and they're trying to make a left turn at that curve, it looks to me like you've got to have a back door. I just don't see how you could do it otherwise, but I'll listen to the other comments on that. All right, I didn't hear any revision. There was some talk about some sort of a stone ornamental instead of the wall there.
When I met with the other neighbor earlier last week, about midweek last week, that was Jack Green, and he spoke at the last meeting as well. He had said that from discussions that he had since that meeting that it sounded like the preference from, and I can't speak for the neighbors, but from what he told me, it sounded like the preference had started leaning back more towards the lumber that was originally proposed. I don't know if I'm getting nods of agreement. So.
That's not public, right? Okay, all right, I see. All right, well, that answers a couple of my questions. Folks, you got anything, Rob?
Rob, you said they're going to add 2 new fire hydrants?
If Bird Street does not connect all the way through, they'll have to add 2. If it connects through one of the existing hydrants, back I believe on either Lindbergh or in this region, would be able to count towards the distance that's needed to meet those standards.
Right. Was any discussion taken about the lighting that the gentleman mentioned?
It hasn't, we haven't gotten a lighting plan yet. It would have to meet the town standards, which they don't allow, glare onto neighboring properties. It's a certain amount of foot candles for each use that would be a low level. And through discussions with the engineer, I believe with the use being the doctor's office, I don't think they plan on having the parking lot lit up all hours of the night, possibly some security lighting in the after hours, but it won't be like a gas station parking lot.
I got a problem with that drive-through on Bird Street, too. I mean,
And
You have a problem with it?
yeah.
Oh, okay. You don't have a problem with traffic trying to?
I do.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
I meant, yeah.
On 158. All right.
and I will mention.
I was making sure I understood what you were talking about.
Yeah.
In discussion this morning with the fire chief too, if traffic is a concern, rather than blocking it off, we thought about the possibility of having this as a right turn exit only, so you won't have people, stacking up in the middle of August waiting to turn left, backing the cars all the way up the road. I'm not, being a town right away, I don't know if that's our call, DOT's call, but I just wanted to mention that as well.
Okay. All right, anybody else?
Is it still the engineer's desire to have Bird Street go all the way through? Is that the applicant and the engineer, is that the preferred traffic pattern that they would like?
I believe so.
Well, ask
They can
him.
probably answer the question better.
The engineer's here, right?
Yes, there.
Get up here.
I think I asked you the pretty much similar question at the last, but just so everybody that maybe missed it last time. The reasoning for the request for Bird Street going all the way through.
Yes, sir, it is the applicant's and my own preference to have that Bird Street right-of-way through access. However, we're trying to be as easy to work with as possible here and work with the neighbors, so we'll go either way here, but the purpose of why we want that to be a through street is it will allow for easier turning movements for folks leaving and wanting to head south, and not to mention just the fact that there were, from either direction, from the east or the west, folks turning, no matter how many signs we put up there to say no through street, there will be folks that turn in and have to find their way back out. So that is the preference, but I think Rob has
pretty thoroughly explained that we're willing to erect the bollards, breakaway bollards, and work with the fire department in any way possible to.
Right. Okay.
Lynn, anything?
No, sir.
Right?
No questions for him, no, sir.
Okay. How much additional water, when you went back and recalculated, are you able to retain?
We're retaining approximately the same amount for the new proposed coverage on our site. And as you've probably seen, we've been able to, after, we appreciate the opportunity to hear and actually sit down with some of the neighbors. We feel like we came up with a really good plan to provide additional runoff. And I can equate that to a volume, but there's also subsurface in the void space. But I feel really confident that this new proposed bulkhead is not going to dam or create any ponding behind the wall at this point, because we're providing an outlet to Mr. Hargrave's property. He's well aware that he is at a lower elevation, and what we did was we were able to decrease the proposed elevations in the rear of Mr. Wilkinson's property and actually extend that. We pulled it into the north side of 3rd Street right of way and have created a minor swale behind the retaining wall to draw any of the potential runoff coming off the back of his property and provided the opportunity to infiltrate here in this depression.
Okay, all right. You've made an honest effort in, as far as I can tell, pretty much every way. All right. Council, does anybody have any more questions of the planner or the engineer? It's getting close to crunch time here. All right. All right, we did not open it up for further public comment. Do I hear a motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, council. Anybody got something on your mind?
Mr. Hargrave, I appreciate your comments very much, beginning of tonight's meeting.
We have a public comment at the end of the meeting, but right now it's not appropriate.
I still have a concern with the traffic. I am not at all in favor of blocking off Berg Street. I have a concern with the access to 158. Coming from someone who spent most of his life enforcing things that are written on signs, people don't always obey signs. If they want to turn left, they're going to turn left. And it is a bad intersection for people coming out of there. I don't know what's the answer to that. I look forward to a traffic study from DOT. That's my concern at this point.
Any further comment?
I just have the same concern he does about the traffic.
Yeah, well,
That's been my concern from the beginning.
the concern that I have is not just the traffic, that Bird Street has to go through in order to give proper access and safe access. But I also appreciate the fact that the engineer went above and beyond, trying to accommodate to the best of his ability what is a lot that has a right to be built on. It's that simple. Looking at the back of a building with all the appurtenances at a back of a building like Ambrose has versus the front of a building that has basically a porch. Yeah, it may be a parking lot, but it's a nicer looking thing to me than the back of a building. So anyway, that's my feelings on that. Jeff, you got anything to put in?
No, not other than I'm glad that to see the residents and the engineers and staff getting together and trying to solve some of these problems and working together. It's good to see it. I hope it benefits both.
Okay. And just so you folks know, I did not meet with Mr. Hargrave. The engineer and planner did. He had asked to meet with me, but we had already had a hearing, and it would have been inappropriate and probably illegal for me to do that once the hearing had commenced. Before that, I probably could have spoke with him, but I did not for that reason. So, all right, are we ready to make a motion? Who wants to make the motion?
I move to grant approval of the proposed conditional use permit to allow the establishment of medical offices at 5201 North Croatan Highway, subject to conditions included in the staff report. Town council find that proposed use is consistent with the town's adopted CAM land use plan and finds this to be in the public interest.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any further comment?
I want to make sure that in this motion, do I need to put in the motion that I want to, these folks to get the lowest level of lighting possible? I know we have standards, but in the conversation we talked last meeting, the engineer related that we're talking about the low-level lighting. I want to make sure they get that, because that is a neighborhood.
And also we're approving with the Bird Street going all the way through, not the,
Yeah, we didn't talk about anything
Right.
blocking off anything.
okay.
Are we okay?
I believe so. The staff conditions do not include the Bird Street. The staff proposed conditions don't include the Bird Street blockade. That was a planning board recommendation, and you only adopted the staff comments. I will note that one of the proposed conditions from staff was that all exterior site lighting must be included in the calculations for a final lighting plan to be approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. I'm not sure if that answers your question directly or not, but that is a condition that would be adopted by that ordinance or that motion if you wanted to
Well, the ordinance
modify
also
that to
calls to
some-
having lighting like we have at Walmart. I don't want that there. I mean, these folks deserve to have low-level lighting that meets their standards.
In that case, then the motion would probably need to be modified to adjust that condition to add that.
Would you have a problem doing that?
No, do you want me to start from the beginning and then add with, with the addition of, how you want me to put it, with addition of low-density
Ben, help
lighting?
us out here.
Maybe the least obtrusive lighting that can satisfy the needs of the applicant. You're trying to bring down the lighting level. Do you have a standard that you're thinking of?
Just low-level lighting.
Just
go
just
back.
a pure height,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
not a low level in
Yeah.
terms of intensity.
Right,
Um,
altitude.
Do you have a height that would be the max height that you'd like to see it?
10 foot, 12
And-
foot at the height.
Okay. And do we have any indication from the engineer that that would be a problem?
No, it wouldn't be a problem to keep them lower than typical parking lot lighting. In fact, if it meant that they're on for the duration of business hours and then actually turn them off, I think the applicant would be okay with that as well.
Okay.
I'm fine with that then.
So if you wanted the height to be 12,
Sure.
so that would be what you would want to do, is to have the lighting be no higher than 12 feet.
Off overnight would be nice.
Okay, with the addition, with the lighting being no more than 12 feet in height.
And then you'd want another second, and you would want to check to make sure that no one objected to modifying the motion.
I'll second.
All right. And does anyone have any objection to the changes? All right. So, Lynn, are you okay?
Yes.
Well, if you're not confused, most of us are. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next, we have a site plan review for developing a Wendy's to compete with a McDonald's. All right. Thanks, Ben.
All right. This application ties into what we spoke about earlier with the sewage treatment and parking. It's a site plan review for proposed development of a Wendy's fast food restaurant. The site's currently undeveloped and is 28,668.5 square feet in area. The site location is zoned BC1, General Beach Commercial. The abutting property to the west is also zoned BC1, contains the Dare County ABC. To the east is BC1, contains Carowinds Seafood. To the south is Walmart, zone BC3, and across 158 is the shopping center that's a part of the Southern Shores. All of the zoning site plan requirements as far as lot coverage, building setbacks, it all meets the requirements of the BC1 district. With the parking situation taken care of, it now meets that one as well. Let's see, the fire department has provided comments that would require that the drive aisle, both in the parking area and around the building to the west, to be labeled no parking fire lane. The revised plans that were submitted, that were distributed to everyone, indicate that on the drawings. And also a new hydrant is being required. The recommendation of the fire department is that the new hydrant be located on the west side of the dumpster pad. The water would be pulled from the line that's running along 158. And back in October, the planning board reviewed and unanimously recommended approval for this site plan. The Campbell Land Use Plan designates this area as a commercial shopping and working area on the future land use map. So with that, if there's any questions as far as how it relates to the zoning requirements, I'll try to answer that. And the engineer is also here, and the applicant as well for this application.
This, it originally was looking to go across with a crosswalk over towards the ABC, but I see the plan has been revised to show the crosswalk over on the south side, basically crossing on the border with Carawan. So that will be marked properly?
Right. Yes.
Okay. And that will be for employees only and so marked?
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
May I move to grant approval of this site plan for the proposed Wendy's fast food restaurant at 5430 North Croatan Highway, with the condition that the requirements of the fire department are met.
Second.
Any further comments? Lynn, you have something? No? All right. You got a second on that, Lynn?
Yes, sir.
Got too many Lynn's here. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're going to get us a Wendy's. Good deal. All right, next we have a conditional use permit for a fitness center, and this is a call for public hearing, so someone want to make the call, the motion? Go ahead, Craig.
I move to set a public hearing at the Town Council meeting on March 7th, 2016, to consider a conditional use permit application to allow a fitness center at 500 Sand Dune Drive.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Reports from the town manager. Andy?
Just a couple things, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Town Council. I'd just like to thank the Public Works Department. A week ago, we had the ocean overwash. They've cleaned that up pretty nice along the beach road. Also, Rabbit Hollow Drainage Project, which the council approved last month, is under construction as of today, and I believe the Public Works Director told me they poured some concrete today and look to finish completion of that towards the first of next week. Also, just a quick middle of the month, we have the Insurance Service Office, which is doing our ISO inspection for the fire department. The ratings that they give the department basically affect the property and casualty insurances for our residents and business owners. We're currently at a 5, so we'll see where we land, and it's based on policies and equipment and staffing and those types of things. They come in and give your department a ranking. So our fire chief will be busy with that this month. And the bee tree nourishment, it's kind of like trying to hit a moving target. The scheduled date for the bid opening is February 9th now from the 4th. So the mayor and I have a conference in the morning on that again. So if there's any updates, I'll keep you posted. So other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
And on the cleanup of the beach, don't forget the state. The state jumped right out there, barricaded it off, cleaned that up. Man, they just Johnny on the spot. We couldn't get along without them. And I will say one other thing, the recycle center is cleanest I've seen it in a long, long time. You new people are doing a good job. Tell them I appreciate that. It looks better. All right, Mr. Attorney.
The only thing I have for you is we still need 46 more easements.
All right.
So we're continuing to field calls from people and talk to them, and some say they're going to send them back, others say,
Do you need, at this meeting, direction to proceed further?
I need direction from the council to proceed with sending out the letters about mid-February to those who have not returned easements, giving them 30 days' notice for intent to file condemnation.
All right. Council, are we in consensus that we need to let him do that?
We're there.
Yes, sir.
You got it.
We'll wait until after the bid opening, so.
Well, if we get one, the way things are going, that thing has moved 3 times already. We're not real sure what's going on tomorrow, but we'll find out, and we'll pass it on, I promise you. All right. Anything else?
No, that's all.
That's it? Town council. Jeff?
I don't have anything.
Lynn?
Nothing.
I have nothing.
No, sir.
All right, the only thing I have is the Regional Planning Organization, the RPO for NC DOT, voted unanimously not to vote on ferry tolling at the past meeting we just had. Basically, the money for ferries has been, by the legislature, has been put into the RPO money, and it's not enough, and it would basically take all the other money for any other roadway work. So having put that into the RPO to trying to get it out, the short session legislature is going to take it up again to try to move it back into state highway capital improvement where it really belongs. So the RPO did not vote onto it and will not vote onto it until we see what the legislature does in short session. All right? And that's my report on that. From now on, Lynn, you can do that.
Thank you.
Lynn is going to take that job over from me. All right. We're into the last public comment. Mr. Hargrave, did you want to comment?
Yes.
All right.
Let me just point something out to you. I believe Michael Strader just left, but the revised plans, in my opinion, showed several changes that nobody's taken into consideration. He's lowered the top of the retention pond under the building. He's raised the bottom level of that retention pond. He's put in a spillway from that retention pond down into a ditch bordering Bird Street, running down into the very area that we said was going to flood. I do appreciate the fact that they've done some changes with grades along the back of the property that will help some in that regard. But there's major changes, in my opinion, major changes to that plan that should be looked at. I think it jeopardizes your DENA permit, his DENA permit for this, water quality management, and nobody seems to have taken a look at that. And again, I think it violates your flood ordinance.
Anyone else? And if not, we're getting ready to go home. Let the record show no one else came forward. Do you hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening.